Welcome to All Worn Out. I'm your host, Warren Meredith. On today's show, Rohan Deshpande. He's of band Resist the Throne, and they play metal music. Well, let's get into it, and let's pick Rohan's brain. It's time now for All Worn Out. That's on the podcast. Everyone can see that. I whacked this. This could have been disaster.
Actually, the open one.
It was just a keyboard, but it would have gone on Rohan. That would have been horrible. Okay, hi everybody. My name is Warren. Welcome to All Worn Out. This is a podcast about music, about hockey, about people's passions, and it's about people from the Ottawa area for the most part, although tomorrow I'm going to do my first remote. So we'll start bringing people in from Toronto and other parts. But today, it's all about Rohan Deshpande. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Okay. And Rohan is of a metal band here in Ottawa called Resist the Throne. And I got to meet Rohan maybe, 5 years ago?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, and I mean, gosh, you were so young back then. And now you were just saying you're graduating from Carleton University?
Yeah, next year I'll be graduating, yeah.
Okay, and you're gonna, so for music, that's what you're graduating?
Yeah, music performance is the program I'm taking.
Oh, wow. That sounds kind of intimidating when you add the performance part onto it.
Yeah, it sounds like it, but it's a very supportive environment. Like all of the props are very nice and very down to earth, so it doesn't really feel too intimidating. And there is a lot of like theory courses as well as performance, so it's pretty balanced, I'd say. Yeah.
Okay, and have you grown a lot over the last 4 years?
I feel like I have for sure. I feel like music theory is something that I never really knew anything about before starting the program, and now I feel pretty comfortable in it a lot, and I find myself using it in Resist the Throne songs and just songwriting in general. So yeah, I would say so for sure.
I think that it's been very cool to hear your vocals mature and change, and your lyric writing grow and change. And I was just listening to my favorite song of yours before you got here, Lost. And I just think that the chorus showed growth and melodic maturity. Like I listen to it and I go, this could be a hit on a pop radio station, even though it's a metal song.
Oh, thank you. That's very nice of you.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to the musical growth, right? And also, you shred. You're shredding on that. I don't know. Is that real? You're doing that like you're not playing a trick on us, are you?
No. Thank you. That's very nice of you. Yeah, no, it's that's one of my favorite solos to play. Actually, I enjoyed writing that one for sure.
Yeah, it's very cool. And I listened to your new songs as well, and they're excellent. Who are you recording with?
So that's myself and Ethan. Ethan, the bassist and also vocalist / screamer. So we do all the producing together. He's really great at like arranging and all that kind of stuff, which is awesome. And then I do the mixing and the mastering for our stuff.
That's impressive. Yeah. I'm just gonna say that's very impressive because it sounds very, very professional. It sounds excellent, and so yeah, you guys should be proud of that. So I saw you guys just recently played in Kingston not too long ago.
Yeah, we played in Kingston at the Mansion. Actually, it was funny when we were there. I saw a Taming Sorry sticker on the Mansion wall there.
Miguel most likely left that there. Or me, who knows? Maybe I won't admit to it though. It wasn't me. Don't come for me, sticker police. Yeah, so how was the Mansion for you?
It was great. We loved playing in Kingston. It was our first out of town show, and it was I think we all agreed it was actually our favorite show that we played so far. So it was a lot of fun. We were definitely like we definitely practiced a lot for that one. And it felt really natural and really good.
Well, let me tell you, I'm a little bit jealous because my first foray into Kingston was also at the Mansion.
Oh yeah.
And I remember they had the name up on the board, and at that point it was with the Ginger Fox Band. And I would repeat this with Taming Sorry, actually. And we got there, and no one would come upstairs. It was very empty. I mean, do they have a good metal scene in Kingston? I'm a little bit jealous.
I think they seem to have a really good metal scene there. It was a pretty good crowd. So yeah, I know I wasn't sure how the metal scene would be there, but even I actually drove up to Kingston a little bit a couple weeks before the show to film some promo videos and that kind of stuff, and I noticed I counted like 6 or 7 people walking by with like Metallica shirts, Iron Maiden shirts, and I was like, wow, okay, maybe there's a big metal scene here. That's cool.
Like, yeah, honestly, Taming Sorry had to move on to different bars in Kingston, which isn't a bad thing. Like, there's different scenes, right? And when you're not from the area, you kind of have to figure out what the scenes are and where people are. One time at the Mansion, there was like 100 kids from Queens downstairs, and they all had their like Queens jackets on with like engineer on it and stuff like that, right? Where they're like, we're the smartest people in Canada, you know? And I was like, come on upstairs, like we're gonna drop the cover, like it doesn't even matter, no money, just come up and drink. And they were like, no, we're too cool, we're the Kingston cool kids.
Oh no.
It was, you know, so I've had that experience, but the Toucan I played in Kingston, and that was a great experience. It was like very packed and full and more of like a pub experience.
Nice.
And of course, I've done the Barn Burner with Chris Gaines. Have you ever played that with a show before with Chris?
No, we haven't, but I've heard of those shows.
Okay, well I'll bother him tomorrow. He's my guest tomorrow, so I will get on his case about getting some Resist thrown into one of his next shows.
Oh, thank you. That's fantastic.
So we were at, what was the venue called? Overtime. So it was called Overtime, and it was okay. It was a sports venue, and there was like an octagon on the stage.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And the drummer played in the middle of it, but it kind of created like made it hard for him to hear what was going on in like a echo chamber with his drums.
Yeah, that would be tricky.
But yeah, so that was fun. And the Blue Martini, that's the last place we played in Kingston, and I'd recommend that. Very nice stage.
Oh yeah,
very nice stage. I think you'd like that place. But so very cool. Where else have you guys played?
We've played every other show's been in Ottawa so far. So we've done the Cuff a few times. We've done Brass Monkey. We did Overflow with you guys. We opened for you. That was awesome. We did Mavericks. Those are all the ones I think that we did in Ottawa, and then we're going to be doing 27 Club in October.
Have you done any house parties?
No house parties actually.
Oh well, you'll get there. I think you're going to do some of those.
Yeah.
And yeah. I mean, I think you should. There used to be some really crazy underground shows in Ottawa, and I hope they come back because those were interesting. But but yeah, so with those venues being the ones you've played in Ottawa, do you have a preference, or do you find they're all fantastic and they all treat you very well?
Yeah, we've had really great experiences at all of them. We played at, I think, the Cuff probably the most, which was, we always have a really good experience there. Overflow was really nice. That was we really loved the lighting and the sound there as well, and the stage is really nice.
Yeah.
It's a really, really big stage, but honestly, every venue, like, no complaints. It was all really great experiences.
Yeah, I mean, for people out there, the Cuff is quite small compared to Overflow, but the thing is it's all about what you're doing. Are you going for that intimate experience with 50 to 75 people, or are you going for a bigger experience? It's all about that kind of thing. And so that's good to hear that everyone's treating you guys good. They should. What's the metal community like in Ottawa?
Oh, it's great. Honestly, like when I started, I was in another band before, Resist the Thorn. When I started getting into the metal stuff and like into metal bands, I wasn't sure how it would be in Ottawa because it's not it's not necessarily a city that's talked about a lot for its metal community, but it's been amazing. And there's some really supportive people. A lot, like all the metal bands are really supportive. Like we'll be playing a show and see in the audience people from another band. It's like, oh, that's awesome. We were at your show last week. You know, it's a really supportive place. The people who come out to the shows, like you always see a lot of the same people in the crowd who go to all band shows and supports the metal scene there. It's really good, honestly, a very supportive scene, and there's a nice metal community here.
Excellent. That's good to hear. I don't get out to see enough metal shows, so yeah, that's good to hear. The next thing I want to know is what was your first instrument? When did you start getting into music?
I mean, technically, my first instrument was a piano, but it was when I was 5, so I might not count it. But I got into the bass guitar in I was 12. It was a funny story because I had to pick an instrument for music class, and so at first I was like, oh, let me do the drums, and then my parents were like, there's no way you're doing the drums. That's not happening. So then I was like, okay, what about the oboe? And I almost did the oboe, but then it fell through because the school at the last minute didn't want I guess they didn't want another oboe player, or they didn't want a single oboe player, I guess. But then I was like, okay, bass guitar seems kind of cool, and I started playing bass, but I don't know, I didn't like that you couldn't do big solos on the bass. So I heard the solo from Master of Puppets, Metallica, and like that was the first solo I was like, okay, I have to learn the guitar. And so then I
How old were you when you heard that?
I think I was also 12. Like it was all in the same kind of year.
And
then, yeah.
Did you watch the videos of them working on those songs when they were pretty young guys? And the producer there, Bob Rock, is kind of giving it to them. What's the guitarist's name? Kirk?
Kirk Hammett.
So I guess Kirk had taken 3 months to write the solo on a certain song, and the producer was like, "That's enough, Kirk. Let's go. It's time. I know you know what you're doing here. Let's get it out." And I couldn't believe it that they were so young. They were so young, and they had. I'm not sure maybe they were just. It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Metallica's the first band that really grabbed you and said, learn guitar.
100%, yeah. Yeah, and Kirk Hammett has been like a huge inspiration for my guitar playing, I'd say.
That doesn't surprise me. I'll tell you a little story about Metallica for me. Where I grew up in Chesterville, across the street, I had these neighbors, and the Gaines family. Shout out to the Gaines family. Very, very cool. And they had a girl and a boy that were the same age as me and my sister. So we'd go outside, we'd play all the time. And you could hear from their house sometimes, just the whole house would shake, and out through the windows would come Metallica.
Nice.
And
nice.
As soon as it did, like the boy, he would just start rocking to it. And he'd start saying the lyrics. And I didn't know, like I would have been 8 to 9, 10 years old. Like I did not know what the heck was going on. But, you know, I'm your friend. I'm your only true friend now. Hey, hey. And he's going crazy, right? And I'm just going, what is happening? But that was my first interaction with Metallica.
Nice, yeah.
It was powerful. So I do understand the appeal. I mean, at that point, I think I'd only heard like Elvis and country music and, you know, nothing of that energy level, which I think is really special about it. So what kind of metal is Resist the Throne?
We say we're like modern melodic metal / melodic metalcore, are like the two kind of genres. It's a big range, I'd say, for sure. Like we're definitely inspired by metalcore, but also just by a whole bunch of different genres. Like a lot of our newer stuff that we're going to be releasing is more on the prog side, mixed with melodic. Some more technical, like odd time signatures and like modulation mixed into it. So just like that kind of blended with metalcore and melodic modern metal.
Modern melodic metal. I think that's what I like. And then metalcore. What's kind of the difference?
Like metalcore, I tend to think of it as like well, if you know Killswitch Engage, they're probably like the biggest example of metalcore.
Okay.
But it's like really, really heavy verses, and really melodic, catchy choruses.
When I was in high school, I remember my buddy getting into In Flames, and
Nice.
we'd rock out to that a lot in my car in my 1989 Mercury Tempo, or sorry, it was called a Topaz.
Oh, nice.
And if when I drove that car, as soon as I hit 120, it would start going about 119, 120, 119, and I still think maybe that the the guy who sold me the car for $1,000. I was so proud of myself. I was working at Tim Hortons. I was like 17, and but I still think maybe my dad made a deal with him where he's like, "Can you make it so like we can't go fast, But yeah, first cars. So In Flames was a band that I really enjoyed, and I remember my friend saying, "Well, it's melodic metal," and I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay." But there was a lot of great heavy music back in that time. Also, people were really into Slipknot and Korn. What would you guys? What would you classify that type of music as?
I'd say that's more like new metal.
Okay.
That's my opinion. I think that's new metal. Slipknot is like, I mean, I love Korn too, but Slipknot is also one of my biggest influences. Right after I heard Metallica, I heard Slipknot, and they have some really cool stuff. They have a pretty good range too. Like when people see pictures of Slipknot, and it's like it's these scary guys with like the masks on and everything. But then if you hear some of their songs, like Vermilion Part 2, like they can do a whole bunch of different type of music. Like they're really, really talented and they have range. Yeah.
Yeah, man. And also the huge band of the time was System of a Down. System of a Down was just blowing up when I was in high school. And yeah, so those three bands, I remember all the guys, the cool guys, wearing all those T-shirts and getting really into that music. At the time, I couldn't really get into Korn, but I found I liked Marilyn Manson at that time, and he
Nice.
kind of pulled me into the genre a little bit just by being different and having a different look. Slipknot with the dramatic mask thing, I also think is very cool.
Yeah.
And I love their interview with Nardwar. I don't know if anyone out there watches Nardwar, but he does a bunch of interviews over the last 25 plus years with all these artists. And his interviews are just so honest that they're funny. He even gets to people like Slipknot wearing their mask, So good stuff.
Very cool. Yeah.
So what metal bands were huge for you in high school?
Like were popular more so. Honestly, metal was extremely unpopular, at least in my high school. Like I can think of maybe two other people besides me who listened to metal. So I wouldn't say there were a ton that I knew of. I was kind of like when I first discovered it, I was listening to all the classics and stuff. So like all the 80s and 90s stuff. So I didn't really listen to a ton of the new bands at the time. But yeah, no, I mean, I guess it would have been, I think In Flames was still putting out some new stuff, or maybe I was just listening to their old stuff. I don't know. I remember In Flames was definitely one of the bigger ones that I was listening to a lot in high school as well. But yeah, it was extremely unpopular in my high school though.
Okay. And so, were you always in Ottawa?
Yes, I was born
Ottawa
in,
boy.
Yeah. Ottawa.
Born and raised. Very cool. And did you ever get into any sports in the Ottawa area?
Yeah, actually, I got into basketball a while, like when I was maybe like 10 to 12. I played for a few years though, and it was fun, but I definitely stopped at the right time. I was not the most athletic kid,
Me neither. Yeah, we all find our niches. There are some of those people out there who are just good at everything. At least it seems that way anyways. But that's cool to hear. Basketball, well, you're definitely taller than me, so that would have worked. I mean, basketball never worked for me. It was just that people just run by me. But
Were you into any sports?
Well, I did play hockey, but again, I gave that up around 14 when all the other
Okay.
boys had growth spurts and I was still like not growing.
Oh.
I don't think I really grew until grade 10, because I remember in grade 9, the teacher put us in line from tallest to shortest, which was really, I didn't appreciate that. And I had an argument with one of my future best friends. His name was also Alex. I have a lot of Alexes in my life. That's why I say also. But anyway, so Alex Braganitz and I, we had a fight about who was taller and who was shorter. He would end up having a growth spurt later that year, and he'd be like 6'2".
Oh,
so
wow.
really funny. But he won the argument anyways, and I was the shortest kid in the whole class. But well, what are you gonna do? That's life. But I played hockey, and I loved being a goalie, and I loved being part of a team.
Nice.
I played soccer. I played that later. I played that like till I was 19 or whatever, and I would still play soccer just because I think it's a great team game. It's kind of like basketball.
Yeah.
I'm better with my feet than my hands with a ball, I guess.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Okay, so what can you tell me about other music genres that you like? So if metal is at the top and it's what you want to work on, what's your guilty pleasure?
I don't know. I mean, I listen to kind of everything. I'm cool with everything, but my favorites, other than metal, like I do like rock, classic rock, grunge. So everything's similar to metal, kind of. But then, I've been getting into a little bit of fusion stuff recently. A little bit of classical stuff through school. Actually, some of the stuff we listen to in theory, I'm like, oh, this is actually really cool music. And I enjoy listening to occasional bit of classical, country music as well. I have a good friend who makes really awesome country music, so he got me into it this past year. But yeah, really anything. Jazz is the one genre I've never really gotten into as much, but I'm starting to a little bit more now. But I'll listen to anything. Yeah.
So when you wrote your first song, was it difficult, or did it just kind of worked?
I'm trying to think about the first. I found that like the music part was like, it came relatively not easily, but like it was manageable, and I kind of knew how to approach it a little bit. But then lyric writing, definitely not. That was extremely hard at first. I would say I had no idea what I was really doing lyric wise at first. But then yeah, I found as it went on, like the lyric writing got a little bit easier when you start having more things to write about, and when you have more things that just inspire you, and when you practice doing it more.
So you're lucky, I think, because when I had my musical inspiration moment, I was probably like 23.
Oh.
So I didn't think I was going to do music or dive into music in any like real way. Because it happened later for me. So I think it's awesome that at 12, 13, you made this connection and that you've been following that path, because I think it will pay off dividends, because I've seen you grow and you're just going to keep growing. And the fact that you're so open with different types of styles of music, that's just going to help. That's just going to help make your music fresh, because you can always have elements from all these different types of music. And as you know, something's popular and then it's not popular, and, on and on, that kind of thing. So, yeah, I think that's going to work out pretty good for you.
Thank you.
Would you ever write an album that wasn't metal in the future?
Totally. Yeah, no, I would be totally open to doing that. I've been talking about collaborating with a few people actually to do different kind of styles. I'm talking to someone who we're gonna. Well, I mean, I guess it still is kind of metal, but we're gonna mix some metal and some rap together in the song.
Very cool.
And yeah, and like even in at Carleton, in some of the courses I'm taking, like we write in different genres as well, and I really enjoy that. I would be totally cool with writing an album in any genre of music, to be honest.
So
that idea.
That's awesome to hear, and I think you should. But also keep pursuing metal. Obviously, I think that's the passion, and keep going down that way. What about sorry, I'm just losing my track of thought for a second there. Jeepers creepers. Ah. I had a question and then it just went poop out of my head.
I'm curious. What do you think of it? What genre would you write an album in?
Oh yeah, I think country, most likely, just because that's what I was doing when I was younger, or like what I heard a lot of when I was younger, and I have an appreciation for like '90s country and '80s country versus what we have now, which is
Okay.
like very heavily pop influenced, and it all starts with the drums. And for me, and the drum tracks in modern country are pop. They're pop drums and
Right.
they sound a lot like it, and so that's why I think you can have all these pop artists who are currently jumping in and out of country so easily, because the producers they're using a lot of the same elements. And yes, Nashville is Nashville, but I've noticed that the Nashville sound, it kind of got a bit poppy, and I mean that's just because choruses sell. I mean, especially on radio, that's just how that works. Um, so when you are writing a song, did you have to go and use any references, or you just knew and you just went for it?
Most of the songs I write, I'd say I just kind of go for it. I'll just be messing around on the guitar and I'll find a cool riff and build a song around that. Or if I have like a cool lyrical inspiration, then I'll sometimes start with that, although I find that's a little bit harder. But sometimes I will go ahead and like listen to a band's like entire discography and be like, okay, what do I like about this? What elements do I want to use? I try to never pull too much from one particular artist or something, because I don't want to be like copying their style, you know what I mean? But
For people out there, if you don't know this, every band is referencing other bands, especially if they get to a certain point, because that's how genres get made. I mean, if you wouldn't
Right.
really have genres unless you had overlapping styles and overlapping, sentiments, you know? So it's not that you're ripping them off, you're taking a part of the genre. I think that's what you're trying to do, or what a producer is
yeah,
trying to do. And like my friend who is a producer who just produces music, not just, it's very hard to do. He makes songs for people on Fiverr on demand, and it's very much like that. And it's not easy. He asks people, he says, give me two references, because they'll ask him to write a song and produce it and give it back to them, and he'll say, give me two references. And it's not that he's going to copy those songs, he's going to get the feeling, he's going to get a little
yeah,
bit of the musicality from it. And yeah, that's how you get styles and you get artists coming out sound like other artists. I mean, a great example might be like how you had Blink 182 and then you had Sum 41. And
yeah,
and you might have I remember that Avril Lavigne back in my day was very popular because she was breaking the mold. She was breaking the Britney mold that everyone was trying to kind of copy and grasp at. And so yeah, I think that it's a pretty cool thing. What do you think about band image? Like, is it very important to your band that you guys come across in a certain way, that you look a certain way?
yeah. I would say so. We've had a few conversations about this too, for sure. But like stuff like, and maybe this is my my social media side coming out on me, but like I think that having things like a color palette and like a defined brand image are super important personally. I mean, it really depends on the style too, because there's certain styles of music where I feel like you can be a little bit more loose with that, and it totally works. But I feel like personally, like my favorite bands have a very tight and very consistent brand image, and I feel like that's something that really adds a lot to it. Like when you're scrolling through your feed and you see. I don't know, like the Raven Age, for example. They're one of my favorite bands right now, and like they have a very, very cool and very unique style. You can tell it's them right away. Same thing like From Ashes to New. Like I feel like it helps. It can help with
People
the brand
remember
image.
you.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
know, Ozzy, for example, I think he was so good at setting that character, Johnny Cash, the Man in Black, if you're gonna be remembered, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, Tina Turner, her legs up there above your head. I mean, no one would ever forget that. The Beatles, they had the bowl cut.
Yeah.
It goes on and on. I mean, not everyone is gonna be Kiss and do the face makeup. Not everybody is gonna do high-heeled boots. For my band, we try and bring back the 70s. We try and bring back that feeling, and complete it so that when you get on stage and they hear the music, you can transport people to where you want to take them.
It's awesome. Yeah.
And I think that's the same for metal. And yeah, definitely. So are you guys on album 3 now?
I mean, I guess technically, because we've been doing it in terms of singles mainly. So I guess technically our first 4, from when it was my solo project, I guess technically that counts as an EP. And then we did another one that we just put out on CD last September. But we're doing it kind of a bit different. Like I said, we released our second one on CD, but we never actually put it on streaming. So we've been doing that in terms of singles this year. So we put out 3 so far, two brand new ones, and then like a re-release of Lost.
I like that re-release. It was very good.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. That was also the first song with all of our members on it. So Marco, our drummer, that was like the first song with his live drums on as well. So that was we all really enjoyed putting that one out, and we're all pretty proud of that one. But we've got a couple more songs on that one, and then we've got a new one that's basically done being written. And we just have to mix it basically, and then it's gonna be out.
Is singles the way to go in today's music market, do you think?
I think 100%. I mean, I know, like, from a listener perspective, it's weird because I do prefer listening to albums that have been put out. I don't know if you feel the same, but
I think what's interesting about it is once you have a person listen to that single and they love the song, it's really too bad that they don't have the album to go to.
that's true.
But
yeah.
it's such a gamble today, that you're going to find enough people and that you're going to make enough songs that are on the level of that single, because people are so hungry today. They don't want to wait. They don't want to listen to a B-side. They're going to go straight from A-plus song to A-plus song, and they don't
Yeah.
care about mix and matching artists. I mean, it just doesn't matter today. You just have the ability to go from everyone's best to everyone's best. So I think, which is too bad, because there's so much nuance in all songs that artists are willing to put on an album, because they all
Yeah.
tell a different story, a different feeling, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, that part's unfortunate, but I definitely believe that our band had more success doing single releases than album.
Yeah.
And we were able to focus more resources, more time, more energy, more hype around one thing like that. You could focus on a music video, you can focus on little elements to boost that one single versus an album, which is daunting. And at the same time, as an artist, we have to do albums eventually. Like, eventually,
Yeah.
it's like we won't feel justified because our heroes did albums. At least that's the way I feel. I feel
I
like
agree completely. But I feel like it's what you're saying. It's a gamble for sure, because even if you do have, like, even if you've written an 8-track album full of entirely amazing songs, A-plus songs, like, if you put those all out at once and then it flops, it's like, well, that's it. But if you put them out as singles individually and you promote each one as it comes out, then you have more chances of making it successful. But then it's like what you're saying too, like, you know, most people, I think, have grown up listening to albums, and it's there's something about that experience for sure, because it's like you're saying, there's range on an album.
when we did our last album, I wanted the songs not to be necessarily not telling the same story, but I kind of wanted them connected.
Right.
I kind of wanted the ability, so what we ended up with was, in my opinion, was sister songs. So like two songs that were in my mind very connected, and then another two songs that were very, very connected. And it was almost like I was finishing, or we were finishing ideas from one song into the next song. And I think that's what's cool, is like these different relationships develop that you're not necessarily expecting, but intention is so important, and it will come out in the album. So like if you intend for something to kind of connect, it will. And it's like it's what's fascinating about it, and it can flush more art out. That's why I like the album. And I wish we could just sell vinyls to people, because honestly, it was better. People were making money back then. I mean, it's very difficult today. I mean, from my perspective, I don't know about you. Maybe you guys are rolling in the dough, but
No.
it's right. Like it's a difficult world today. I'm sure it was always difficult. Like,
Yeah, I think it's different challenges too. Like nowadays, I like making money on streaming is definitely way harder. But then it also comes with new opportunities. And I'm not saying it's balanced. I don't know if it is, but like the idea that anyone anywhere in the world can listen to your music for a very low price and can discover your music and become a fan. That's also something that couldn't have happened. So I guess it is kind of a trade-off, but there does have to be a way to make a living off of that for musicians too. So
okay, so what you just said, I think, is very intelligent, and it's something that I wish to write and type out on Facebook when I see people bash Spotify or bash internet applications.
mm-hmm.
The truth of the matter is it's just like you said. I love the fact that I have fans in America, in all over the world, because I did put a little bit of money into Spotify, and I'm not embarrassed about it. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. You have to believe in your product.
100%.
You have to believe in yourself. And so, yeah, Spotify, do I wish I was making a lot of money? Sure, I do. But I'm also humbled by the number of people in the world today. And I'm humbled by the amount of art that's coming out in the world today. And to be honest, that speaks to prosperity. It also speaks to challenges. I mean, look, the blues didn't come out of everyone being happy. And neither did punk, and neither did metal. But I mean, you need that push and pull. Still, when art is flourishing like it is, it's hard to complain. And I like getting all the different genres. I mean, I remember when Napster came out, and I said this last night to a dog. I just said, we didn't know that we were ruining musical world. We really just, we didn't know. We were just like, wow, what's this? What was this song? What was this song? And all of a sudden, my 14-year-old brain was like, oh, that was the 80s. Cool. I had no idea. No, that was the 70s. Very cool.
Yeah,
because
exactly. Yeah.
before that, all I had was my mom's tape deck. You know, all these country and western tapes, or classic rock, very classic rock tapes.
Right.
So I do think it's like you say, it's a little bit of push and pull, and how do we figure out how to balance it? And the other thing to remember is there are artists who are doing well for themselves.
That's
and,
true, yeah.
You know, so we can't be, you just have to say, okay, I guess it's back to the old drawing board. It's Pinky and the Brain all over again. Again, maybe that reference is before your time. It was on a show called Animaniacs. And so there was these two mice that lived in a cage. They were like lab rats, and one of them was like not really with it. His name was Pinky. Brain, I couldn't do his voices. Anyways, he was a silly guy. Yeah. And then Brain had like a huge mouse head.
Oh.
And every night they'd try and take over the world, and they'd fail every night. Like they'd come this close to taking over the world, but every night Brain would screw it up, and he'd be stuck with Pinky again in their little mouse cage. Yeah, sorry about that little rant, guys. Back in my nostalgia.
No, that's cool.
Going back on a little journey. Yeah, I could even sing the theme song. What are your thoughts on theme songs? They were pretty big back in the day, and I find they're less now.
It's a good point actually. Yeah, they seem to be a lot shorter now too, like very very short. Yeah, no, I like long theme songs. I think it's nice.
Yeah, like 007 back in the day, or I've got the Clockwork Orange album up behind me. Have you ever watched Clockwork Orange?
I haven't.
Okay. I'm gonna tell you right now, you have to go home and watch it.
Okay, I will.
If you were in like a sociology class or a psychology class, it's highly probable that they'd make you watch it. The leading man is a Canadian. He's still around. He's in a show, The Critch Family or something like that on CBC.
Oh, I've seen that show. That's
The
good.
grandpa.
Oh, okay, yes.
He's the star in this 70s Stanley Kubrick masterpiece. Now, I got to be honest with you, it's very brutal. Like, very, like, it's supposed to rock your senses and make you go like, whoa, what's going on? This isn't right kind of thing, you know? But, again, it's watched and recommended by a lot of, like, psychology students and that type of thing. I'd recommend it. It's very fun.
I'm gonna watch that then. Yeah.
Yeah. You can't go wrong with Stanley Kubrick, in my opinion. Like, again, like I'll watch The Shining sometimes just because Jack Nicholson and that creepy hotel. Yeah. But anyways, back to theme songs. Yeah. I think game shows and jingles and that whole type of avenue is again where a lot of musicians end up making money, or where they used to make money pre-internet, and then people become session musicians. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Because in the end, some people just decide it's not worth it. The fight and the struggle to try and advance their art for personal reasons. That's not me. I doubt that's going to be you.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. But I think that's a good point though. There's a lot of areas within music that are still like you can make it as a musician that aren't necessarily things that would first come to mind when you say you're a musician, like theme songs, licensing music in general for even videos like on YouTube and stuff for people to buy rights to your songs, for example, like licensing music in general, I feel like would have some pretty good money in it. But just
I'd like to imagine so.
Yeah.
It's like you like to think somewhere there's a way to successfully do it because a lot of us work very hard at it.
Yeah.
But I hope to interview we're going to talk to a lot of musicians on the podcast and get all their opinions like we're getting from Rohan today. Rohan, where should people go if they want to support Resist the Throne?
Oh, well, on all streaming platforms, we have music out. If you're in Ottawa, then our next show is going to be on October 8th at the 27 Club. So if you're free that date, then come on down. But yeah, or on Instagram at Resist the Throne.
Cool.
So, yeah.
I played 27 Club, I think, February. And I enjoyed it. Very good feeling to it. It was different for me because I used to play there when it was Zaphods. And I have so many memories of being in my 20s at Zaphods. And, man, I used to do a lot of stuff wrong. I mean, in music. And I think it's interesting. The journey, if you stay on the road, you get perspective. But back in the day, I remember opening for The Damned Truth, maybe 2012.
Nice.
That's, and yeah, and I remember not bringing out more than 20 people and just feeling horrible. But I was doing my best. And that's the thing people got to realize. A lot of artists are giving it their all. So what band could roll through the city that would make Rohan go, that's it, we have to open for this band? If we open for this band, everybody is going to say yes.
I Prevail. That's probably my favorite like band of all time, to be honest. And I think they have I think they just nail every single aspect of music making from like lyric writing, to the production in their songs. Like the production is crazy, especially in their newest album. Everything just sounds like the dynamic range is just huge, and every drop, like every breakdown sounds huge. Every chorus is super catchy. Like I prevail 100%. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. I saw that at City Folk this year they had Greta Van Fleet, and I saw they had Crown Lands, and I was like, dang, I'd love for Taming Sorry to be on that bill. That'd be so cool.
Nice.
Just because Greta Van Fleet was like one of those bands that I heard on the radio like 7, 8 years ago, and I was like, that's cool. That's like the type of music that I'd like to perform, you know? So I totally get it. There are those bands out there that you just go, that would be so perfect. Who else was I talking to recently about this? Oh gosh, I can't think of their name right now, so I won't go down that road. But goodness me, it's a lot of work to be an artist. So you said you have a show coming up when again?
October 8th.
October 8th. So then what's the summer composed of then for you?
We're gonna be doing a lot of production, a lot of mixing, mastering, a little bit more writing too, and just preparing for the show. Gonna be rebuilding the live rig. I'm sure you know how it is with always fiddling with the tech and all that. So just getting that as little wires as possible and as cleaned up as possible, kind of before the show.
Well, I was impressed by what you guys brought in to when you guys opened for us at Overflow. I was like, well, I don't know what. That's pretty cool. It looked like a car engine or something you guys brought it in. But, I mean, I'm a singer, so I don't know anything about tech. The fact that the podcast here even has audio and video, you know, it's a testament to something. I don't know. It's lucky because I'm not very technically savvy. So what was it like? I'm just curious. What was it like growing up in Ottawa in the 2000s?
It was good. It was a good time to grow up, I think.
You always had the internet, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Although I didn't have, and I thank my parents now for this. I didn't have like a phone or computer like screen time basically until I was maybe 16 or 17. And I'm really I like at the time I was like, oh come on, but like now I'm super thankful for it. I do think that there's so much social media and so much constant internet nowadays that it's a little bit too much, you know?
That's very true.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of oftentimes the things that we hated our parents for the most or disliked them for the most, those were the hard decisions that they were making where they were like, gosh, they're going to hate me. But if I don't do this, then, you know, so, you know, good on them. I can't say it was the same for me. I grew up watching Saturday morning cartoons.
Oh yeah.
If I woke up early enough. But and I remember when the internet came out like heavy when I was about 11, 12, 13. Like we were educated on it when I was like 10 back in like 97, where they were like, it's the World Wide Web and this is called Netscape. And like, cause that was the Explorer program back then.
Okay.
Yeah. And like there was no Internet Explorer, and back then it was dial-up internet. So basically if my mom picked up the phone, then my internet would like screw up.
Oh really?
So we played video games back then, like very bad looking video games, but still we played video games on the internet. And if my mom would like pick up the phone to call my grandma or something, then all of a sudden I start lagging out, and like and on the phone what she would hear is like,
oh really?
like the dial-up signal to the thing. So then kids all over the world were like screaming at their parents, being like, put the phone down. And then like parents all over the world were being like, get off the internet. So
that's funny. Wow.
So then companies were like, buy a second line, and you know, that type of thing. And then when cable, like I lived in a small town, so there was a delay until we had cable internet. And when cable came, it was like revolutionary. It changed everything. I think now we're on fiber or something.
Yeah.
But they went through all these different stages. And yeah, that's my memory of the 2000s is how everything changed from my childhood. And people from the 80s remember it even more. Like, I watched Tom Green on a podcast talking about how kids used to relay information down the street. Like, if a celebrity died, the mom would be like, send the kid out, and the kid would run down the street, tell this kid would tell that kid.
Oh,
And it was like very word of mouth, the way things spread. And so, yeah, I think you did grow up in a very interesting time. And that was very savvy and very smart move by your parents, because I'm sure now, like, you don't feel the need to do it. Is that what you'd feel?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of a battle because I do find myself often on my phone trying to get off, but I feel like kind of everyone does. But yeah, I don't know. I don't feel as drawn to it for sure, and I think it's something that if you use it in balance, then it's fine. What I notice now, and I feel like it's the next generation more so. I teach music part-time as well, and so I teach a lot of younger students, and I noticed that for the really younger ones, if they have access to a phone, then it's really hard to get them off it. But if it's like an older student who's maybe not had it for their entire lives, then like they can kind of stay off it. But I think the youngest was a 6-year-old student come in on a phone, couldn't get him off a phone for the entire lesson. So I think it's starting to affect the younger kids,
The focus level is definitely something people talk about. Going back even maybe to the 60s, what we had was television, and all of a sudden kids sitting in front of televisions. And then we had commercials, and then we had TV shows being shortened and shortened and shortened. So half an hour shows became 28 minutes, became 26 minutes, became 24 minutes, became 22 and a half minutes. And that's basically what we watch now, but it came all the way down, keep making room for advertisement. And then they would do these studies on how long can we get people to focus on this. And it's the same thing with radio. There's a reason they want tracks to be 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
Right. Yeah.
That was the old focus thinking rate. And commercials at 30 seconds, that was like, you can summarize, you can get that bang for your buck in on 30 seconds. But if you want the minute, you can echo that sentiment again. And it's very song-like, where it's the same as getting to your chorus, getting to it in a minute, or getting to that chorus as quickly as possible, and cycling it as quickly as possible. And so, yeah, I think that whole focus thing is an ongoing conversation in the media, where TikTok now is trying to shorten it even more.
Yeah, I mean, like 8-second videos,
Yes.
I think, are sometimes the highest performing ones on certain streaming or certain social media platforms. It's really interesting how fast things can change, because like even 2-3 years ago, I think we didn't have. Maybe we had TikTok, but it wasn't nearly what it is now. And now everything, like YouTube has shorts, Instagram has reels, Facebook has reels, right? It's like it's all shortened. But I feel like if it applies to music too, like you're saying, like now it's maybe 3 minutes, but if you listen to songs like 80s metal, like there were songs way longer than 3 minutes. Most songs that are popular, and I think it's, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but like classic rock, it must have been the same. Like Led Zeppelin,
It was
their
always a
songs
fight.
weren't,
It was always a fight. I mean, I've got Jethro Tull there in the thing, and Jethro over here, he didn't do any very short songs. And you had prog bands that were pushing the limits, like Rush. But if you wanted to fit into a certain time frame and a certain demographic, if you wanted to be mainstream,
okay,
then
yeah.
you had to do things a certain way. And I find it's become less and less that way. But in the end, we're in the dopamine game. And I think that's the thing that a lot of people dislike or like. They either understand it or they don't. When people look at Miley Cyrus, because she does this all the time, where she puts on an outfit that makes everybody's jaw drop to the floor, and they go, what is she doing? Why is she doing this? and she knows that she's giving her fans what they want. She's going to give them dopamine on all levels. And the same thing with Billie Eilish, and the same thing with all the dude artists too. You know, they give you that quick fix and the sex appeal and everything all at once. And that's what's interesting about art, is how some people commercialized it and turned it into a whole new type of thing.
It's really interesting.
Yeah.
You know what else? I don't remember what the exact concert is, but it's I think it's making its way into concerts too. Like one of my friends was at a show like a week ago, and he said that there were 8 different artists, and like maybe 4 or 5 of them were bigger ones. And they came on with like 15-minute sets each, and it was like very short. It's almost like an ad, right? It's like your ad, but it's coming into performances now too. So I'd be curious to see how the concert industry looks like in 10 years.
That's a great point. And what an absolute nightmare for the sound guy.
Oh yeah.
You might as well hire a few of them, and the stage manager. Like, they're not going to appreciate you. They're not going to like you.
What do you mean there's 8 bands using in-ears?
Yeah. I mean, I remember being part of some festivals where it was similar to that. You know, we had like maybe 6 bands, and the acts were 20, 25 minutes tops, you know, and not enjoyable. I don't think it's enjoyable for anybody, but
I mean, when you think about it too, like from the artist perspective, like if you're like the amount of work that goes into like a 15-minute set, like you're spending hours on making sure that set is perfect, right? And then only have like 2 or 3 songs is kind of, I think it's kind of insulting in a little way sometimes, a little bit, you know, but I don't know. I guess it's all about what you'll benefit from that too. So
there's some artists, and look, they have success, but they only have it once or twice. And then they have to milk that song for the rest of their life. And, you know, I have respect for them, just as much respect for them. I know that a lot of them keep writing songs. I know that, you know, a lot of very popular artists go on, they keep writing songs, and no one will listen to them. They only want to listen to the old stuff.
right.
And so every artist has their challenges, successful, not successful. There's always the question of when and how long and what kind of success did these artists go through. It people will put maybe the Taylor Swift down or whatever when they're trying to sound cool. But the way she took on the record label and re-recorded all of her songs,
Super impressive.
yeah. Right? And sets the example for all the artists and that are younger and looking up to her. So I like that type of thing, and I think you're doing the same thing right now in Ottawa in the metal community. I think you guys are setting a fantastic example for how to build a band up from the ground, and I've seen it get better and better. And the fact you guys are recording your own songs, mastering your own songs, that's
Thank
impressive.
you so much. I appreciate that a lot, and you guys as well. You guys are setting a great example as well for the Ottawa music scene.
Oh, well, thank you. And I think a lot of bands in Ottawa should be very proud of themselves. And as artists, we must remember that failure and rejection is part of it. It's part of the game. And if we're not failing and if we're not struggling, we're probably not creating great art.
That's very true. Yeah.
You know, you have to have that feeling of you against the world at times, and it just be ready to get back up and have fun again. And I'm sure you will, and I'm sure you guys will continue to keep kicking butt, kicking ass. There you go. I swore on YouTube. Take that. It's okay. I click not for kids on when I upload the video. Because I don't want them to be influenced by David Bowie or Kiss, you know, with their devil music.
Yeah.
You know, don't scary stuff.
Yeah, I've got to stay away from that.
You might turn out with a Rohan, but I mean, also congratulations on almost finishing university.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
I think that's a real accomplishment. And on teaching, I know that takes a lot of patience. Do you think you'll teach for a long time?
I mean, honestly, I love it. It's really great. I think I will. I like. It's part time, like I mentioned right now. I could see it staying part time, but it's really nice to be able to teach and to be able to show people what you've learned. It's nice.
What else are you passionate about, Rohan? Anything else? Is there a TV show that you are addicted to, or some kind of guilty passion?
I mean, like other than music, my main passion is astronomy. I'm really into astronomy.
Cool.
So yeah, no, I like astronomy, astrophotography. I'm getting into. I just bought a new telescope actually, so I'm doing some repairs on it, and then gonna get some more nice pictures with that. But yeah, no, music and astronomy are my two main things, I'd say.
Mr. Crowley. That's all I got to say to that. You got to be careful. You might become an alchemist or something there, and make the Philosopher's Stone.
Maybe.
But I remember I got the star app for my phone where you like put it up at the sky and it tells you move it around and it tells you what the constellations are, because I don't know anything about it, and I found it fascinating that I could like point it down and it would show me like what's going on the downside of Earth and what's going on up there. And yeah, so maybe one day we'll see you on a podcast with Neil deGrasse Tyson.
That would be sick.
Do you like quantum physics as well, or just like the astronomy stuff?
Well, I started out really liking the astronomy stuff, but this summer I actually took a physics course and I really enjoyed it, like an astronomy physics course, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm gonna take another one this year, and I'm gonna start reading some more books about like the mathier side of things too, because I don't know, I find it really interesting how it ties together.
It is very fascinating stuff. I mean, maybe too big for my head. I mean, when I start thinking about it, I start thinking about black holes immediately and what's on the other side, and is it a recycling system? Like, what's going on, man? And then
I don't know. It's kind of crazy, like some of the concepts, and when you start thinking about it, it's
is it expanding nonstop, or is that just a thing? Is it all an illusion? Are we in a simulation? Sorry, this isn't Joe Rogan. We won't go down that road. We won't go into the road of aliens. Instead, we will say thank you so much to Rohan. I've had a lot of fun today on the All Worn Out podcast, where we feature local talent, local musicians, local artists, fans, whatever you're passionate about. We want you here on All Worn Out. So thank you so much to Rohan Deshpande of Resist the Throne.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Make sure you check out Resist the Throne. If you're a fan of metal, I promise you're going to enjoy it. You have my word. You can come and find me on this podcast and type in the comments and say, I really like that. That band was good. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm Warren Meredith, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye, everyone.